we're going to be talking about MAGA world and drama. Uproar breaking inside the MAGA world over H-1B visas and foreign workers, ladies and gentlemen. We're diving right into it. As you guys know, I covered this extensively yesterday, but we must cover it even further.
As President-elect Donald Trump is preparing for a widespread immigration crackdown when he takes office 25 days from now, we're seeing a crack between some of his top advisors and his MAGA base. Elon Musk and Vivek Ramaswamy are both facing major blowback from their own supporters for not only backing, but encouraging offering more visas to highly skilled foreign workers.
This is my tweet that I screenshotted that Lolo posted, just so you know. And I can't believe he posted that and he got 46,000 likes. This son of a bitch. I should have posted it. It is the funniest tweet I've seen. He sent me his screenshot, and then when I saw it, I was like, oh yeah, dude, I also screenshotted it. I sent him back the same tweet. I was like, this is hilarious. I'm constantly insulted on this platform. Racist people are so funny. They thought the billionaire man doesn't just want cheaper labor, just like they foolishly think they're superior to a dude born into abject poverty just because the dude is brown. There's an air of entitlement and superiority that a lot of Americans feel over the rest of the world because of American empire. They think like they did it. You didn't do it, okay? You're just a beneficiary of it to a certain degree, and you're not even a good enough beneficiary of it because all the death and destruction that we subjugate the developing nations to do not even come back bountiful to the American society, to the average American labor aristocrat. That's what's so funny about it, is that part of the reason why our GDP is so high is because there are so many expensive middle managers in every process. For-profit healthcare is one of the best glaringly obvious examples of this. There is no real service that they're providing, and it should not exist. It's a concept that literally only churns profit for people. That's it. It's a money-making operation. It doesn't have any real service. It doesn't offer anything. Like, that's not a real concept at all. We just made up an entire industry specifically designed to make things more costly, and they certainly do make things more costly, and it makes a lot of money for people who are shareholders. And we've basically done this with every industry. So the second tweet I had, which apparently a lot of right-wingers agreed with, which I thought was strange, is the elites destroyed schooling in this country for profit. They treat teachers like dirt. Kids get shot in school. Then they tell you college is not important and it can't be free. And now you're sitting around mad about H-1B visas. Lamau, you've been robbed blind. Ashley St. Clair said, never thought I'd see the day where I agree with Hasan. A bunch of right-wingers saw this tweet and were like, oh my God, I agree, which is interesting. I guess when you frame it with elites rather than capital-owning bourgeois or whatever, oh my God, you're becoming jank. Yeah, totally. This means I agree with right-wingers and not vice versa. I think I'm on the opposite side of that spectrum, where right-wingers are agreeing with me. I'm not agreeing with right-wingers. I am noticing contradictions that other people are also noticing and using that to describe my worldview in a way that people can comprehend. This is what I do. It's called agitative propaganda.
Over the Christmas holiday, Musk posted this online saying, think of this like a pro sports team. If you want your team to win the championship, you need to recruit top talent wherever they may be. He later added, I'm referring to bringing in, via legal immigration, the top 0.1% of engineering talent as being essential for America to keep winning.
So the reality of the matter is, I don't have an issue with H-1B visa programs. I don't have an issue with migration at all. Migration is what has kept America so dominant. The problem with how migration is done, however, or the major reasons as to why people like Elon Musk like immigration in general, is because it creates an alternative secondary labor market that is reliant on maintaining their job. So if you're a regular American citizen, you go to school, you go to college, right? You take on major student loans. You're taking on a shit ton of debt just to be able to become a more productive, more valuable worker. And in the end of that process, now you have to pay off those loans. So there are a couple different external pressures that keep you at your shit end job. A job that your educational attainment does not require you to take on in normal circumstances, but now you're desperate. Obviously, one of those reasons is how expensive college is and all the student loans that you have to take in order to even go there. That traps you. The second reason, that is perhaps the more significant reason, is that if you leave your job, you don't have health care because your health care is tied to your job. But for our endlessly parasitic, capital owning class, that level of exploitation is not enough. As profit rates have a tendency to decline, our capital owners look to the more malleable aspects of commodity production, which is always going to be the labor force. That's not enough, so they either A, move manufacturing overseas to a developing nation in an effort to draw out higher profit margins in general, even though that is a logistical nightmare overall. It still is infinitely cheaper at the end of the day for people who want to produce goods at the lowest possible number, as cheaply as possible. Another thing that they also do is take advantage of migrant workers. H-1B visas are supposed to be for these incredibly talented workers that are highly skilled and have gotten, they've gotten all this education. And it's understandable that we have this mentality towards the brain drain. It's what has kept America competitive. It helps improve scientific research in the country. There are many different benefits for the H-1B visa program. The problem, or rather not the problem, but the additional benefit, the real benefit for the likes of Elon Musk, however, is that outside of the two pressure factors that I've mentioned for documented American laborers, there's a third component that is even more consequential. It opens up a new avenue of exploitation, because migrant workers, obviously due to the currency exchange, are always going to, if they want to bring money back to their home nations, they're going to be more willing to take a pay cut. But number two, perhaps more consequential, is that if they lose their jobs, they don't just lose healthcare, they get deported. And this is precisely the reason why Elon Musk and many other billionaires love the H-1B visa program, because this way you get to bring in a migrant worker that is competent, that is well educated, that will work for much cheaper than the American worker, and is also tremendously leveraged in the eyes of, or rather, Elon Musk has tremendous leverage over the likes of an H-1B worker, and therefore that H-1B worker is endlessly exploitable, much more exploitable than even the documented U.S. citizen laborer. Now, the solution to this problem is to ensure that there is a normalization and a proper processing to ensure that you can't actually depress wages for H-1B workers and keep the wages in the marketplace even. This, of course, is considered socialism or some kind of like price enforcement, some kind of wage enforcement, which is not even a part of the conversation. Not a single person will allow that to happen. And that is precisely why we have arrived at this major problem for a lot of Americans who are like, well, I want to get a job, especially in the tech sector where there's been hundreds of thousands of layoffs. What the is going on? Elon Musk is still trying to fill these roles with migrant workers rather than American laborers. And therein lies the major issue. This is the truth. The truth is that rampant privatization has absolutely gutted and destroyed American public education, and that is a major component as to why American laborers are no longer competitive in the global market. And there are two ways out of this. Either you try to engage in isolationist policies, or you rapidly improve the educational infrastructure in this country and make it as egalitarian as possible in order to yield the best possible results. Because you don't fucking know what people's ceilings are. This is part of the problem with racist sentiment. There are many issues with white supremacist attitudes, but this is a major problem. You have no idea what a kid growing up in Southside Chicago, what their potential actually looks like. When you rob them of that potential ahead of time, you'll never know. Okay? That's it. You will never know. And in that process, because we're trying to eke out profits from every corner, from every sector possible, we actually end up making our labor force less competitive in the global marketplace. And that's why, inevitably, countries like China will thrive in this marketplace, because they don't fuck around with education. This is why it's always hilarious when Donald Trump, in the same conversation, will say something along the lines of abolishing the Department of Education, and in the same breath, without a shred of irony, will turn around and say, look at Norway and Chinese education. It's so much better than us. I wonder why. Perhaps it's because they understand the importance of education across the board.
He's talking about H-1B visas, which allow employers to hire highly skilled foreign workers.
Do you think funding in liberal arts, humanities, and social sciences should be reduced and redirected to STEM programs, or do you believe those programs are important in many ways for society and development? Of course, I believe those programs are very important in many ways for society and development. Yes, this like hyper focus on STEM is so hilarious because one, it never strikes people as odd that those who actually LARP as STEM lords themselves also come from liberal arts degrees with like theater majors, okay? The likes of Steven Crowder and Tucker Carlson, right? And secondly, what's additionally hilarious about it is that they are trying to make the STEM field into serfs. That's why there was so much focus on comp sci in the late 2010s. And look what happened. Now every comp sci major is driving Uber because they all got fired. They literally were like, oh yeah, learn to code, learn to code, learn to code. All you motherfuckers in this chat, learn to code. Look what happened when people learned to code. There was a very deliberate goal there to flood the marketplace with a lot of new comp sci majors in this like blossoming field so that they could artificially lower the wages in general because it became a more competitive field. And then they made you basically train the AI that would inevitably replace you. Because at the end of the day, capital owners are always going to look for ways of outsourcing your labor to cheaper substitutes. What do you have to say about societies that have arguably surpassed America, particularly China, that have huge emphasis on STEM and like zero humanities majors compared to America? That's wrong. The idea that like there is no humanities majors in China is objectively incorrect. Countries like China quite literally fund art programs. They fund humanities all the time. They don't just fund humanities, they fund art programs in general. It's not, what you're saying is not correct about China, nor was it correct about the USSR, for example.
Musk, who himself is from South Africa, said that he once had this kind of visa, and he's arguing that Silicon Valley is facing a shortage of excellent engineering talent, as he put it. But the annual cap on those kinds of visas right now is at $65,000, with another $20,000 for those who get a master's or a doctorate in the U.S. Musk is being backed up by his partner in Trump's government efficiency initiative, Vivek Ramaswamy. He says it's a cultural issue that there aren't more competitive engineers in the U.S. Here's what he said online: a culture that celebrates the prom queen over the math Olympiad champ or the job.
Like, this is so stupid. It's incredible. We're not venerating our nerds enough. Our culture doesn't venerate nerds. Yeah, that's the problem. Thank you, Vivek. I love that Vivek basically was like, yeah, I got no when I was in high school, so now it's your fault. Also, it's not like Vivek is a fucking engineer. What does he produce? He hasn't done shit. He's a hedge fund guy. He is a pharma bro. He's a fucking Silicon Valley tech guy. Him, JD Vance, Elon Musk even. He has one patent. All he does is hire the appropriate people and then put them under horrific circumstances. Oh, not him projecting. These guys are all business majors LARPing like they're actually fucking cooking up new inventions. It's all aesthetics. There actually was one guy in my high school who qualified for the U.S. International Math Olympiad team, but now works in a quant firm. It's so messed up that his talents are being focused to trade the stock market due to that being what capitalism... Exactly. I'm sure that dude could apply himself better in a public research capacity instead of churning out extra profits for capital owners who hire him. Okay? But that's where the big bag is. So why the would you not go there? The only thing that stops you from going there is the genuine passion that you have. This is what I was talking about with respect to fucking engineering. The only thing that keeps certain engineers continuously in the engineering side of things and not going to fucking finance where all the money is certainly not the fucking job prospects. It's certainly not the comfortable salary that you get. It is your own pure passion. It is autism. Okay? It is the autistic interest that you have in building certain things. That's it. That's it. And some people go, all right, fuck this. I need to make money. And then they go into finance anyway. There is so much talent in this world, from highly educated people all the way to people whose potential is robbed from them due to the unequal circumstances they were born into, where people could apply themselves to truly make revolutionary, groundbreaking, world-changing technology to improve people's lives in a dramatic capacity. And yet all of that talent and all of that brain power is lost to the finance sector because that's the only thing that makes money. That's the only thing that people care about. And as all these other sectors offer you very little pay as the cost of living increases in these major cities that you have to get these jobs at. That's it. We're just cooking ourselves. We're cooking society.
Over the valedictorian will not produce the best engineers. A culture that venerates Corey from Boy Meets World, or Zach and Slater over Screech and Saved by the Bell, or Stefan over Steve Urkel and Family Matters will not produce the best engineers. But that argument is not going over well with Trump's MAGA base, certainly not online. Some of them saying, we did not ask them to engineer an immigration policy. Tech wants indentured servants, not high-skilled workers. You don't even know what MAGA immigration policy is. Now, Trump...
Wait, and Coulter said American workers can leave a company, imported H-1B workers can't. Tech wants indentured servants, not high-skilled workers. Yeah, it's not just tech, by the way. And Coulter, it certainly isn't just tech. Let me tell you, it's every sector. It's every sector. That's where undocumented migrants come in. You know, driving your Ubers, picking the crops. Who do you think is doing that? Building houses. Who is working in the kitchen? The problem is capitalism makes people more vicious and more self-interested and causes people not to recognize that a lot of Americans or a lot of people across the globe have the exact same interests, the exact same class interests. So when those class dynamics are mystified consistently through the likes of identity politics and all these other different classifications that are applied to workers broadly, and the attitude developed within liberalism is this zero-sum game always. People go, why the fuck would you raise the wages for undocumented migrants? Fuck them. They should be deported. Not realizing that if there was at least some kind of legal safeguards for undocumented migrants, that they could be processed and become documented laborers in the American marketplace, in the American labor marketplace, where they could actually work alongside the documented U.S. labor force and unionize and demand higher wages and better workplace protections. It would genuinely improve all labor in this country. But as it stands, the way we operate, we have a constant depressive force on wages, an endless talent pool that refreshes through incredibly violent means such as deportation. Those guys are just the same as you. There is nothing different between an undocumented migrant and a documented U.S. laborer. There's no difference whatsoever. They're just trying to make a living in the exact same ways that you are trying to make a living.
You don't even know what MAGA immigration policy is. Now, Trump himself, who I should note restricted H-1B visas in his first term, has said on the campaign trail this time around that he did want to make it easier for educated foreigners to work in the U.S.
What I want to do and what I will do is you graduate from a college.
China spends 7 trillion yuan, about 1 trillion USD on education, more than double what they spend on defense, more than what the US spends on defense. University is basically free even for the poorest villager. Yeah, we can't do that. That's too costly.
College. I think you should get automatically, as part of your diploma, a green card to be able to stay in this country. And that includes junior colleges, too. Anybody graduates from a college, you go in there for 2 years or 4 years. If you graduate or you get a doctorate degree from a college, you should be able to stay in this country.
The point is, it all still comes back to wages. If you want to positively incentivize people into going to certain sectors that need extra hand, you have to ensure that wages are higher and that sector is still capable of recruiting the top level talent. But we have a negative incentivization structure in the United States of America where basically we make it so that the bottom is endless and therefore you're constantly competing with the entire globe, with the labor force of the entire fucking globe, where your starting position is worse off in general too, despite the fact that you're in the wealthiest nation on the fucking planet. You're in the wealthiest nation on the planet, a nation that has seen a 14% increase in homelessness this past year. Okay, think about that. 700,000 people are sleeping outside tonight. Insane. On top of that, you have to take you're saddled with student loan debts that force you into jobs that you don't even want to fucking take, despite your educational attainment. And people eat one another alive when they're talking about, or it was 18% increase, sorry, it's not 14% increase. People are eating one another alive and yelling about how college is for the elites and it's gay and woke and that's the real problem and DEI is the real problem or whatever, a number of different unnecessary and idiotic fucking takes are flying around. Meanwhile, people like Elon Musk are robbing you fucking blind. And this story in and of itself is fantastic for me because I think it exposes how easily tricked many Americans are and how they utilize the racism button to gain favor and continue further division in American society as they continue their domination. They don't give a fuck about anything other than making more money, okay? They only care about profits. It doesn't matter what happens to you.